So early morning house call. It is, what time is it? 6:01. Meeting up with my shooter, Corey. Good morning, bro. Yep. On our way to go do a house call at 7. Just coming to the shop to line myself up because my client already has clippers at his house. That was part of the setup is I don't have to come to the shop to get my clippers. He has his own set, his own chair, cape, everything's already set up. Yeah, just gonna get myself lined up, man. Since I'm on camera, I might as well not look crazy myself. So yeah, man, just spend some time here, quick lineup, and then we gonna head out. So I'm a minimalist with my hairline, man. Like I don't have my 22-year-old hairline no more, bro. So it's one thing I tell my clients all the time is like enhancements are good, right? They can definitely make your hairline look more balanced. They can fill in some of the light spots. But the issue a lot of my clients have who are kind of similar in age, right? Like we're aging. I have some young clients as well, but I have some clients who are, 30s, 40s, 50s. The problem sometimes people have is that they're trying to hold on to their high school or 22-year-old hairline when it's time to embrace the 30s and 40s hairline. So that's what I'm gonna do, bro. I remember fourth grade, man. I remember like this was yesterday. That's how traumatic slash interesting this experience was. But like fourth grade, I remember I had my outfit laid out for the day, and my dad forgot to cut my hair. At least he just put off cutting my hair, I think. So the morning of, he was, all right, son, let's go to the kitchen. Let's go ahead and cut your hair. And I don't know what he did or how he messed up, but he ended up having to cut me completely bald.
No.
I was pretty devastated. All right, so we're still a little early. We so early that my watch ain't even on yet. It still thinks it's sleeping time. Let me go ahead and turn this on. All right, so let's get out of here, man. Lined up, looking somewhat fresh. See, nothing too crazy. Ready to hit this road. Yeah, man. All right, let's head out. All right, so heading to this 7 a.m. house call. Again, no clippers in hand. Don't need any clippers. They're already at the house. Yeah, so this is a long-term client of mine that is pretty private and prefers the convenience of me coming to him without having to bring all these clippers with him that were shared with everybody else. Now, don't get me wrong. Of course, I'm clean enough that I'll definitely sanitize, sterilize as much as I can, the combs and stuff. But he just wanted his own set, so we shopped. So we went shopping. I selected the best trimmer and clipper that would work for him. Didn't have to get the most expensive ones, just chose to get the ones that, I guess, the most durability. Didn't want to have to get like the latest, newest clipper or trimmer and then worry about them failing. So went with the Babyliss trimmer, which is something I've used for years. I don't use them a lot in the shop right now, but that's what I chose. And then as far as the clipper, we're using the Caliber 50 cal BMGs. Love this Skyline barrel. Skyline is crazy, bro. The Atlanta Skyline always inspires me. Just to keep dreaming, man. Like it connects me to my younger self. It connects me to my early years cutting hair, going from my job to barber school. Like it reminds me of that commute because I would have had to drive through downtown to get from my job to barber school. So just passing through downtown, knowing that was my aspiration was to get to a point where I was like in the city cutting, whether I was in the shop or whatever. Just the huge towers. That's always been something that's inspired me, bro. It's beautiful, man. We're going to drive through it. I can tell you a little bit more because I had this ritual I used to do when I used to drive through, man. I used to roll my window down every day and you scream, I'm coming at the top of my lungs. That's how dead serious I was. All right, let's get out of here. Around 10 years ago was when I realized I had the epiphany that I was capping myself because I was trying to cut everybody. Being that busy. I mean, it was cool. It served, but there's a point where it's time to focus, right? And where it's time to really hone in on, all right, who am I? What am I really doing as far as long-term career? How do I make this something that even when I'm 50, I can still enjoy doing? And that's when I had the epiphany that like, all right, so there's a certain type of client that I keep attracting. And there's certain kind of clients that actually feel a way about cutting. Like, not every client is meant for every barber. There were plenty of times when I was cutting somebody in the chair and it just wasn't a match. The vibe was off, the energy was weird. And I figured out that the main reason it was like that is because, for me at least, it was about punctuality. So if I was cutting somebody who was, 20, 30 minutes late to their appointment, it made me feel away. There's certain barbers who that works well with, and I started to realize, like, I'm not that kind of barber. I need to make sure that I put in some kind of like structure into my schedule where there is a penalty for somebody showing up late. And I think the toughest part was probably enforcing it, because nowadays, 2025, every barber who takes appointments, they have some kind of like no-show fee feature where they could charge somebody for not showing up to their appointment. Now, whether or not they do it, I guess it depends on the software that they're using, or if they actually feel like they're worthy of charging somebody. Because the other side of that is a lot of barbers, they're late too, right? So then you have this whole situation where it's hard to charge somebody and hold them accountable for running behind if the last time you cut them, you were running 30 minutes behind, or, what's fair. At that stage for barbers, they need to understand that they provide more value the more that they niche down. Meaning, like, since there's 3 different layers of value for a barber, the more you can embrace the internal value and the social value, the more value you can bring to a client. So say, for instance, this house call, right, that we're about to go to, he doesn't value having the very best, most enhanced detailed fade. This is a client who gets a one guard, even all over. A lot of barbers will know exactly what I'm talking about. He gets a one guard, even all over, taper in the back, really low, slight taper on his beard. He doesn't really care for the crazy, overly enhanced haircut. But if I was a barber who only focused on that, and I felt like that was the value that I brought to people, and that's all I brought, then I would never be able to have this type of client. Or this client, if I charge them individually for these house calls, I charge just under $300 per house call. But for him, we did a package to where he paid me $4,000 for a year worth of services, essentially. So I cut him about every other week or so. I wouldn't been able to capture that quality of a client to make this kind of money cutting one person without bringing more to the table besides just the quality of the haircut. External value is that, it's the quality. Secondly is internal value, which is what somebody really feels frustrates them. Or this particular client, he valued the quality, yes, because he knows that I'm somewhat a perfectionist, so I'm going to bring that. But also he valued his privacy, right? And being able to be in his own comfort zone within his house. So he paid the additional money to have his own set of clippers. He paid for me to come to him. That for him was more important than me providing the latest enhancement, me doing the craziest, dye service or the most detailed blend. Like, he doesn't really care. Even when I show him the mirror, he barely looks in it. Like, he maybe spends a quarter of a second reviewing what's in the mirror, because he not only trusts me, but he values the entirety of the service, not just the external value of the haircut. The internal for him is he wants privacy, he wants convenience. So that's high ranking for what he values, not just the haircut, but also the privacy, the convenience. And last is the social aspect. That's the third layer, is social. So what I mean by that is there are certain things that I do that reflect who I am that he values, because he sees similar values. He sees similar things that he can relate to, meaning like he is an early riser, he's an entrepreneur, he's a golfer. These are all things that I am too. So the more socially and the more I bring to the table by being myself, the more value I can bring to clients who are just like me. So it's less work for me to show up as my authentic self and attract the kind of clients that I want to spend time with, because I'm just being me. And by doing that and capturing me being me by capturing content, I can bring more people who I have a great time with when I'm in the chair, when they're in the shop, and when I'm behind the chair. A lot of times, experienced barbers get to a point where they're so skilled, it's hard to tell them anything. They skip a full, thorough consultation because they don't feel like it's necessary. They feel like they can skate by on their skill set alone. And some of them can. Even if I am a super skilled barber who's been doing this for years, I can get more value by, again, understanding who they really are, what they really want, and what else I can do to help them become their best selves. Everything I'm talking about now is really amplified by a barber being able to share his value on social media. If I go back to like 10 years ago, when I was trying to figure out my niche, trying to figure out my role in this industry, especially in this big city, Atlanta, with so many barbers, I would definitely post more on social media. I think a lot of barbers get comfortable because they have a decent clientele and they feel like they don't need to post, which may be true if you're cool with staying exactly who you are and what you've been getting, right? If you're cool with the results you've been getting, then for sure, you don't have to post on social media. But I would tell a barber who they may feel awkward about capturing more content like we're doing here, is to start small. And the best thing you can do, the easiest way to capture content as a barber, is to use like a point of view camera. Like a lot of barbers now are investing into those Ray-Ban glasses, which is cool. I think it's an investment that is worth making, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the first step. In my shop, we have these neck harnesses, and I teach this within my program, that the best way to capture content for us is just to capture what we're already doing. So instead of me trying to be a influencer, let me just capture me being a barber. To me, that's the best way for a barber who's maybe a little awkward talking to a camera, for him to still be able to capture the process of what he does. Because if he's really providing more than just a dope haircut, he can capture that. He can capture the great conversation. He can capture the essence of the barbershop. He can capture the process of providing a dope service. He can capture the conversation of him saying, hey, I have a client who's a real estate agent if you're looking for a house, right? So all that stuff can be captured by using a neck harness. So yeah, we talked about how barbers who are experienced, how they can continue to use consultations to separate themselves. So with our consultation, the one that I teach, it's not just about asking random questions and, just filming the process of a client sitting in the chair for the first time. You really want to get a little deeper on what you understand about them. So our consultation that I teach focuses on 3 different things. First is confidence. Second is clarity. And last is a commitment. And most barbers stop with clarity, which is fair. I understand that, like, a lot of times you just want to get clear on what somebody wants. But after you understand what they want, what happens next, right? Like, it's not good enough for you to understand what somebody wants to execute one time. You have to be able to get somebody to commit to you on a long-term basis. I like to say that a client isn't really your client until they come to you about 4 to 5 times. And you can't have somebody come to you that often unless they're committed to you. So the last part of consultation is all about establishing commitment and getting them to a point where they understand what that looks like for you. And how do we build a relationship that's long-term, not just you tipping me $10 because I gave you one good haircut. So yeah, man, as we walk back to the shop now, getting ready to start for the day, got about 10 minutes till my first client. But, breaking through a plateau as a barber isn't about working harder or trying to grind more, working more hours. It's really about focusing on clarity, structure, and then from there, figuring out what you're willing to commit to, right? And once you understand the exact client that you want to work with, how to communicate with them, now it's easier to make decisions about your new schedule and your new price point. So that's how you break through a plateau as a barber. And that's what took me from being, busy and all over the place, working crazy hours, to being focused, structured, and booked on my terms.